UFC 325 Volkanovski versus Lopes 2 was this weekend, and I want to go through the entire card from the bottom all the way to the top and give my full reaction and recap of what happened the entire night. And we're going to start all the way down at the very bottom with the first early prelim, which was Salangrabu versus Lawrence Louis. Lawrence Louis won this fight. I didn't get to watch this fight fully, but I heard it was a good fight, and I saw it was a split decision that was very, very close. So, considering I didn't know anything about either of them, I got this one wrong. I did not do great on this card with picks, but this just started it for the night. Then we moved on to Kichiro Nakamura versus Sebastian Sisley. Um, yeah, I got this one wrong, but I was on the way to get this one right. Nakamura was losing this fight, lost the first two rounds pretty clearly, and then Sisley got hit with a knee, that got hit with another knee, and then the third knee that hit him knocked him out cold and was just it was a great shot by Nakamura. Um, but I got this one wrong, and I was so close to having this one right. That happened a couple times over the course of this card. Then we moved on to Sangwoo Kim versus Damar Fan. I got this one right. This one kind of did go strangely how I thought it would even though I didn't know anything about these guys. Damar Fan, it was a fun fight. He won this fight unanimously, and pretty clearly he won this fight and just outdid Sangwoo Kim in most of the moments of this fight. Then we move on to an actual fight that I knew was somewhat interested in, which was Khan Offley versus Yija. Now, I picked Yija to win this fight, and I believe Yija won this fight. I don't think Khan Offley did. Um, Yija dominated him the second round, and then I think he did enough to win. I think the other two rounds were close enough, but I think he did enough to win in the third round. I think he landed just as many good shots as Khan Offley, and I think he did enough to with the takedowns at the end to just secure it even more. And yeah, I think Ija should have won this fight. I wish he would have because that would have helped my record for picks on this card. But yeah, this fight was a pretty decent fight. The second round, Ija was just beating on Khan Offley the entire time, picking him apart. Just that left hand every time he switched stances was landing at will. And yeah, I think Ija should have won this one. I completely disagreed with Khan Offley getting the scorecard, and I think honestly, I think 8 out of 10 times this is a win for Ija. One of the other two times is a win for Khan Offley, and the other one time is a draw. Like I think this fight could have given a 10-8 for the second round, and then I think he could have given him the Yija the second or the third round as well. But I got this one wrong. Khan Offley did win, so I started off the card doing great with 1-3 record. And then it doesn't get any better because we move on to Jonathan Milkef versus Oban Elliott. Um, yeah, this one Oban Elliott was looking really good. He was doing very, very good on the feet in the first round and in the second round. Um, and then Jonathan McAuliffe got Oban Elliott down to the ground, and when he got him down to the ground, it was pretty much one-way traffic. Got onto his back and cinched in the rear naked choke, won the fight. Um, Oban Elliott was looking really, really good on the feet, much faster than Jonathan, and he was on his way to win this. But that ground game, it's too big of a hole, and I didn't really think that would come into play too much, but it really, really did. And Oban Elliott loses, and I go 1-4 so far on the main card or on the card. Then Jacob Malkoun versus Torres Finney. Now I picked Torres Finney more of a meme. Really, I didn't think Torres Finney would actually win. I had some thought in my mind that he would be able to use his wrestling again and get another boring win, but I was more just convincing myself of it because I thought it would be kind of funny. But honestly, when he was losing, I found myself to be really happy seeing Torres Finney lose because of his last fight being so boring. And he literally did nothing. He does not know how to throw a punch. I think he landed one decent punch the entire fight. The total strikes being 42 is actually kind of crazy. And yeah, Jacob Malkoun looked really good out there. Great stiff jab. Of his 151 shots, I think it was like 109 or 120 or something were all to the head. So yeah, Jacob Malkoun went out there, did a great job, and my pick that was kind of supposed to be wrong, that I just gave myself to be wrong. It went there when I did not need it to. So I got 1 in 5 so far on the card. But then we moved on to Cam Rouston versus Cody Brundage, which is a fight that I changed my pick on at the very last minute when I remembered who Cam Rouston was. In my last video where I did my predictions, you can see me actually change the pick from Cody Brundage to Cam Rouston, and I'm glad I did because Cam Rouston pretty much controlled this fight. Cody Brundage had a good couple minutes when he was bolting and throw some heavy shots, but Cam Rouston did what he needed to do, and just he beat Cody Brundage and he wore down on him and eventually got the finish, and it was a good performance from Cam Rouston. I don't know what his next fight's gonna be, but I am excited to see him fight again. And yeah, I got this one correct. This is my second fight of the night that I got correct. That was 2 for 5. So out of the 7, I've only gotten 2. And then we moved on to Junior Tafa versus Billy Alancana. This one really did not get my hopes up that I was going to get another one right. Junior Tafa looked pretty decent early on in this fight. Was landing good shots against Billy Alancana. Dropped him. Um, and this is I think the best the Tafa brother really has ever looked in a fight. Like this is the most I've been like, oh my god, this guy could and should win this fight. But Billy Ellen kind of stayed in there, got more into the groove of it as the fight went along, and eventually ends up getting to Junior Tafa on the ground and submits him. Very good. Yeah, I believe it was a rear naked choke, and yeah, Billy Allen kind of does what I expected him to do in the second round, but the first round was definitely very very worrying for me that I was gonna get another pick wrong and it was gonna be to a Tafa brother. But yeah, that ended off the prelims. The prelims were okay on this card, nothing too absolutely crazy. Um, the first fight of the night that was supposed to be Tao or whatever, one of the Australian boys, he missed weight. So that fight didn't happen. So that wasn't on the card. Um, so the prelims went by pretty quick and were actually pretty decent. Then we moved up to uh the main card, and we have the feature fight. So to start off the main card, we have Quillen Salkeld versus Jamie Malarkey. This ended up winning performance of the night. Quillen Salkeld did, and he deserved it. In the first round, he went at Jamie Malarkey, actually used his wrestling and took him down, threw him around. Um, Jamie Malarkey stayed in there, pushed Quillen up against the fence too, but eventually Quillen grabbed Jamie Malarkey, threw him, just power bombed him, not really, but like picked him up, threw him right on the ground, just slammed him, and then got on top of him, looked at the crowd, stuck his tongue out to showboat, then ended up getting the submission it locked in and tightened it up and finished Jamie Malarkey. And yeah, first round performance, great job by Quillen Salkeld, 4 in a row in the UFC, and still looking very, very good as a prospect. He called for somebody in the top 15. I hope they give it to him. Um, and yeah, I would like to see Quillen Salkeld keep doing well, but it was a very, very, very good performance. Then we move on to Tai Tuivasa versus Taliesin Teixeira. Now this fight was something. I mean, this was a like a typical heavyweight fight. And yeah, this was just what you expect from heavyweights in the UFC. Yeah, switching to the picture at the end of the fight, these two were just sitting there, like breathing as heavy as they could. They were both exhausted to the point where Taliesin won the first 2 rounds. Ty needed a finish in this last round and was going for it, but Ty got too tired mid going for a finish and had to hold Taliesin up from falling down because Ty was too tired to go in for the finish fully. So if Ty had a better gas tank, he could have gone in and finished this in the third round. probably 7 or 8 different times, but he got way too tired, and Taliesin was just out of it. Like, he was wobbled, falling over, like barely able to stand, and Ty was too tired to do anything. So Taliesin Teixeira back in the win column, coming off the Derek Lewis knockout, beats Tai Tuivasa. Ty honestly should just retire. That would be the smartest thing. He's not at that level anymore. I mean, there's definitely those unranked heavyweights that he could beat on. Maybe they give him one just so they can end off on a win and leave. But yeah, it was rough. Tai Tuivasa loses a very, 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 very sloppy heavyweight fight against Taliesin Teixeira. But took Taliesin Teixeira longer than anybody else ever has, which even in defeat, Taliesin's longest fight in the UFC was 36 seconds. So yeah, that was the feature fight, or not the feature fight, but one of the last fights of the main card, and it was an okay fight, but very, very sloppy. Then we moved up to Rafael Fiziev versus Mauricio Rufy. This one also won performance of the night. Mauricio Rufy did, and the first round was very close. Rufy probably ended up getting it, I would have said. Um, but it was very close. Very good performance by Rufy. I mean, obviously he won performance of the night. Fiziev looked decent out there. Was landing good body kicks, but Rufy did what he needed to do. Kept it calm. Looked much, much more improved in this fight. Did not throw many kicks because I think he is definitely still worried about that takedown, and so he wasn't throwing too many kicks this entire fight. Fiziev was pushing forward, pushing him on the back foot, but just could not land shots on him when he would get him up against the cage, and eventually goes in. Rufy lands the shot that you can see and drops Fiziev bad. Fiziev is like stumbling all over. Then Rufy goes up, hits him again, and then gets him down on the ground and punches him and punches him and punches him and finishes him. And Rafael Fiziev gets TKO'd by Mauricio Rufy in the second round. It was a great performance by Rufy. Not much really else to say, and yeah, it was really, really, really good performance by him, and against a good opponent too. Fiziev is no joke, and it looked like Rufy was much more composed in there this time than he was against BSD, and he definitely went in this with a different mentality than he did the BSD fight. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes from now. He called for a fight on the White House against maybe a McGregor or a Paddy Pimblett or something like that. There's a lot of interesting fights in the lightweight division. A Paddy Pimblett would be an interesting one. A Michael Chandler would be an interesting one. Honestly, him versus McGregor, I don't see that happening, but I would be interested in seeing it happen because they are both very, very, very fun strikers. So could be an interesting fight. But yeah, Mauricio Rufy, great performance, wins devastatingly against Rafael Fiziev, which not many people can do in that fashion. Then we move up to the co-main event of the evening: Dan Hooker versus Benoit Saint-Denis, and this was a pretty good fight. I mean, obviously it was going to be. I feel like if this fight would have gone to the decision or would have been a mainly stand-up fight, this would have been one of the best fights of the year. Because it just felt like the momentum was going up, and then BSD definitely used his grappling in the second round a lot more. But Dan Hooker looked really good in the first round. He landed great kicks, was hurting Benoit Saint Denis to the body very, very, very often. I don't think Dan really even noticed how much he was hurting Benoit. But Benoit stayed in there, toughed it out. They had a war of a first round where they were just going back and forth with each other. Um, every time BSD shot in with a takedown, Dan Hooker was using a guillotine or a Darce, like anaconda type choke, as a way to kind of defend the takedown in itself. And then BSD would just roll out of it, and they'd both be standing back up. Um, but then eventually, second round comes. BSD gets right on to Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker then shoots a takedown on his own, which I think he did that in the Arman Sarukian fight. Very bad idea. You shouldn't be doing that, especially when you've spent the entire first round defending the takedowns. You shouldn't be shooting in one on your own. And he shoots in on one. BSD reverses it, gets on top, ground and pound, tries to submit him, doesn't submit him, then ground and pounds him. Um, bloodies them all up and finishes Dan Hooker in the second round by TKO. Yeah, good performance by BSD. Fun fight, and Dan Hooker just made the normal mistakes that Dan Hooker seems to make and loses this fight. Yeah, I it was looking good for Dan, but Benoit he snowballs into fights, and when he gets into those later rounds, the longer he goes, the better chance he has to win, and he did it this time. I think Benoit Saint Denis versus Arman Sarukian is the fight to make next for Benoit and for Arman. Benoit coming off of the Arman's last win. Arman kind of in a limbo stage where Justin's going to be fighting for the title. Max Holloway and Charles Oliveira are probably going to be fighting to decide who might fight for the title too. And then Arman's just sitting there. He's going to need another fight in the meantime. I think him versus Benoit Saint Denis makes sense for like a May or July, like just before or just after the White House card. But yeah, that fight I would be looking forward to. And Benoit Saint Denis gets it done by beating Dan Hooker in the second round in Australia and kind of silences the crowd, does a pretty good performance, and does what a lot of people thought he would have done. Now we're at the main event of the evening. Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopes 2 for the featherweight title. And yeah, this fight was it was way too similar to the first fight. It was closer than the first fight. I saw a lot of people saying this was a 50-45 for Volk. I do not agree with that really at all. I think I think this was probably a pretty clear 3-2 for Volk. Because I think there were rounds that Diego dropped Volk and hurt him and looked good. Close rounds that they either each edged out. And yeah, I think Volk ended up it came down really to the fifth round, and Volk won that round pretty clearly. And Diego just fell into the same rhythm that he fell into with the first fight. He didn't really change enough. I saw people saying that he did look like he adapted pretty well, but I don't know. It reminded me so much of the first fight that he was not aggressive enough. Which yes, you got to be careful with Volk. I'm not saying just run in haphazardly and do nothing, but you got to be more aggressive than Diego was. Diego didn't do anything in moments that he should have. He would drop Volk and then nothing, and not follow up. He would get Volk up against the cage and then do nothing. Volk would land a jab and Diego would back up a little bit. And Diego could have shot in for certain takedowns and didn't really, and let Volk be the one controlling this fight. You can't stay on that outside range with Volk. It's just not the way that it works fighting him. You need to mix it up and get in close, especially when you're Diego, when you feel like since you're the taller fighter, you've got the reach advantage. You do not. Volk is a longer guy for the shorter end of this division, and Diego just needed to get in there and mess it up, cause chaos. That's what worked with Gene Silva, and he didn't try it this time. He didn't shoot takedowns. He didn't implement his grappling. He was way, way, way too respectful of Volk's grappling. And you got to be risky in a fight like this because you don't want to be in the same situation you were just in earlier last year where yeah, you're dangerous to most of the people in the division, but the champion clearly outdid you, and that's what happened again this time. I mean, you could look at this fight the exact same way you look at the last one. Nothing really changes other than the fact that Volk is just even greater than he already was. He survived 50 minutes with Diego Lopes, and yeah, he got dropped bad a couple times, and didn't didn't really even show that he was waved by it. He got dropped real bad by Diego in this fight, hopped right back up, and didn't even let it bother him. Diego got cracked so many times in this fight with overhands and a lead elbow in the final round that dropped him bad. And Diego kept going. And apparently Diego had two broken feet at the end of this fight. One of them I think happened in the fifth round. I don't know about the other one, but it was a little weird. There was a lot of leg kicks between the two, but apparently Diego thinks he broke both of his feet. So we'll have to see where that goes. But this fight, it was good. It was fun. It was entertaining because with these two, you never know what's going to happen. But it was way too much like the first fight, and that was kind of the worst thing that could have happened in this fight was it be exactly the same as the last one, so we've not progressed at all. Because this fight was not a title shot we needed to see. We needed to see a Lerone Murphy get the title shot, and they skipped over him for Diego for the fact that it would be a fun fight again. And it was a somewhat fun fight, but it was not moving for the majority of the fan base. This was not. We will not really think of this fight much after this weekend, um, other than when Volk fights next and when Diego fights next. But Volk, I mean, at his age, still doing good. I think if Diego changes things or approaches this fight like he approached the Gene Silva fight, I think he wins this fight, and I just don't think that he was eager enough to go out and finish Volk. I think he was trying to out Volk, and you're not going to do that. Volk's too smart. He's too well experienced. He's too trained, and you're just not going to do that. Even if he's getting this much older, you have to cause chaos in there and give Volk more things to think about. You can't just let him dictate the fight, and Diego did that again for another 5 rounds. But I got that one wrong, and I believe, let me see what it was. This card, I went 0-1, 0-2, 1-2, uh, 1-3, which should have been 2-2, but 1-3, then 1-4, 1-5, 2-5, 3-5, 4-5, then 5-5, then I went 5-6, then 6-6, then 7-6 with the, or no, 6-7. Oh my god, 6-7 with the main event. So I did not do great on this card because I went 6 for 13, but there was a lot of fights on this card that I didn't know most of the people, and I expected different from Diego in this fight, but I'm still excited to see Diego fight next. Mavzar versus Avloya, or Mavzar versus Lerone should be the next fight to decide who fights Volkanovski and find something for Aljamain Sterling to do. Get Diego in there maybe with Diego versus Yair Rodriguez, and then because that's a bad blood matchup, you do Volk versus the winner of Lerone and Mavzar, and you do Aljo versus Gene Silva coming off the Arnold Allen win. I think that could be interesting, but yeah, we'll have to see what happens and move on. Next weekend is Vinicius Oliveira versus Mario Bautista with Kyoji Horiguchi versus Amir Albazi. And the next May, then we've got Strickland Hernandez at UFC Texas. But then we move on from those into UFC 326, Holloway Oliveira. And I'm so excited for that one. But we'll just have to wait and see. Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe, like, whatever you can do. And go check out my TikTok. And yeah, thank you for watching. And hopefully you enjoyed. Let me know what you think of the fight.